God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter, is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
But not this episode.
Not in this episode.
No.
My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host, the marvelous Toni Homeperm.
Who is she?
That's you.
Oh.
Is it?
I wasn't
Is
sure.
it this time?
Thank you for reminding me.
We all like to have an existential crisis. It's fine. It's wonderful. And welcome to God'll Get You for That, Walter, a podcast where we discuss the 1970s hit sitcom Maude. This is our episode 47.
Yay!
And we are discussing season 2, episode 23, Phillip's Problem.
Mm-hmm.
It originally aired February 26th, 1954. Directed, of course...
1954?
1974.
The lost episode!
The lost episode.
The really lost episode.
The really, really lost episode.
So it was, what was it?
February 26th, 1974. 74.
74. Okay. All right. Good to know.
It was directed by Hal Cooper and written by Norman Lear, Bud Grossman, and Bob Weisskopf.
Okay.
The guest stars are Fred Grandy returning as Chris. Phillip Bruns as a truck driver, Peg Shirley as a waitress, and of course Brian Morrison reprising his role as young Phillip. What'd you think of the episode?
Well, as we were just saying after we finished watching it, I felt it was sort of a cute, fluffy kind of episode, but it wasn't
groundbreaking. Wasn't groundbreaking.
It wasn't certainly not like if you were going to curate top 10 episodes of Maude.
Oh God, no!
It would not be in. Oh. It would not be in there.
I don't even think this is in the top 20.
Yeah, not like the worst episode, but just
there were some funny-ish moments. Yeah. There were some moments where it was just like, all right, this is the Maude. This is the equation for a good Maude episode.
Yeah, it wasn't very Maude-centric, and maybe that's why.
No, it wasn't very.
Maybe that's why it just kind of fell a little flat.
Yeah, just a little bit. I felt like it was more focused on Phillip, Carol, and Chris than anything else.
Yes. Yeah. And I guess that was the problem.
The missing factor.
That was
more Maude.
Yeah,
it just needed more Maude.
It needed more Maude. But, but we digress. But let us set the scene. So it opens, Walter's in the living room.
Yep.
Maude comes in through the door. She's greeting him and she's telling him that
his car's almost out of gas.
It's almost out of gas. She used his car.
Yes, she did use his car.
And he's like,
and
why?
Walter's like, my car gets 9 miles to the gallon. Yours gets 22. Yours is in the garage. Why didn't you take yours?
You're supposed to be saving gas. And she said, I am saving gas.
My car's full.
It's full.
My car has a full tank.
Yes. So now, as I've told you in past episodes, this is right around the time
the energy crisis.
You're going through the energy crisis. Yep. And getting gas was a
chore.
It was a big problem.
It was a chore.
There were gas stations with lines. It's actually remember right after I think it was Hurricane Sandy here on Long Island.
Yep.
A lot of the gas stations you couldn't get gas, and there were our usual place. I remember because both cars were almost on fumes, they were all of a sudden. I don't know what led us to do it. Frank somehow found out that the local gas station had gas, so we took both cars out and got online, and I think we had to wait about an hour.
Yeah, that sounds
to
about
get
right.
up to the pump.
Yeah.
To get gas, and I was like, wow, this reminds me of back in the 70s when I would go with my mother and we'd be waiting online to get gas in the car. Yeah. And then for a while it was they had odd even. If your plate, the last number of your plate ended in an odd number or an even number, that depended on what day you could go get gas. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday was odd. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was even. It was something like that. So
it does make sense, though. Mm-hmm. It does, and again, it's one of the reasons why my family says if there's ever a big rainstorm or a big snowstorm, go fill up your car before, just so that you have a full tank of gas.
Yeah, because the thing about because we are an island, and it's really there's not that many for the oil trucks to get into Long Island.
There's only so many avenues to take.
Yeah, basically it's the LIE.
Yep.
Because they can't take they can't go on the parkways.
No, they can't.
They've got to go on the
They
expressway.
have to take the expressway.
Yeah. So if anyone listening is and lives in a different part of the country or world, here on Long Island, trucks, commercial vehicles can only drive on the expressways.
Yeah.
They cannot drive on parkways. And have you ever seen a truck on a lot of our parkways? We have those low bridges. And we've all seen our share of trucks, like 18-wheelers.
Have all been stuck in that specific
that make
type
the
of
mistake
traffic.
of going onto the expressway and thinking they're going to make it through that low overpass. And they don't. They don't. And
sad.
I saw like one truck where like he tried to go through and like the container that they stick on, was like, it was like ripped and like twisted, and if you're fortunate you stop and the police come and they back you off of the parkway, and there's a lot of fines just for that.
Oh yes, a lot of fines just for that.
But at least you haven't caused all this
Chaos
damage
and damage
of trying to get. What makes them think they're gonna get through?
Hope.
Yeah.
Hope. That's what they think will get them through.
So then Carol proceeds to head
Storm downstairs.
Storm down she's yelling at Phillip.
Yep.
Because Chris is coming. She had told him to clean his room.
And he says if he wants it clean, call an exorcist.
Call an exorcist. That's how.
So the child is obviously being unruly and upset and angry for.
And Maude is just, isn't that what she was like? Oh, isn't that cute? He hasn't even seen The Exorcist.
Yep.
And Carol's like, no, he's being a brat.
Yes, and she says like if Phillip keeps it up, he's going to fail all of his courses
flunk all
in school.
his
and
his classes.
We come to a very interesting topic where Maude goes, no, Phillip is an absolutely bright child. Yes. He gets it from my side.
He takes after my side, yes.
Takes after my side.
Yes. And then there's a discussion about, even though Walter is not related by blood.
Walter is not related by blood, so I don't know why Maude would say something like that.
I don't know. But she brings up about Walter's side.
And Maude says, what can you say about a side of the family that was occupying or
was made obsolete
by automatic pin setters.
Yes.
Which, to those that don't know, years ago, they
went bowling.
Yes, when you went bowling,
there was someone who would
reset the pins.
They didn't, they didn't always have that, that thing
mechanism that came downstairs
and
came downstairs.
That
came down and then set the pins.
Set the pins. Yes.
Honestly, I saw that and I was like, were they talking about pins in a bowling alley or were they talking about pins and grenades?
No, pins in bowling alley.
I mean, years ago they would have people that would ting bombs or missiles to make sure that they were defective.
That is true. That is true. But I assumed he was talking about bowling.
Yeah, okay. We both...
For the sake of argument.
For the sake of argument, it was bowling.
We'll say I'm right.
We'll say pin setters that were setting pins for bowling.
For the sake of argument and just to make me happy, we'll say I'm right.
And just to make you happy, we'll say you're right.
So, she's tried talking to him, and she starts thinking that, because her and Chris are going away for a few days.
Yes.
Chris has a
college reunion.
And she's thinking, maybe we shouldn't go away. And that's when they start going through the suitcase.
Yes, Maude's like, first of all, you don't know how to pack.
Yes, Maude wants to repack everything that Carol's put away.
Because of course she does.
And
she holds up a deck of cards and a see-through 90.
Yes.
And Maude says, well, in my day, I would bring one or the other. And she says, coincidentally, if I brought the deck of cards, you wouldn't be here.
Yes. But even before that, she remarked that, Carol was like, oh, you shouldn't be, repacking my stuff. And she's like, well, even Henry Kissinger's mother packs for him.
And then Carol says, no wonder he looks like such a slob.
Yes.
Or so frumpy.
Yes, and it's at that point also there was more banging from upstairs.
Yes, definitely more banging.
Yes.
Phillip was being quite unruly.
Yes, was it someone
says
marked
it's the
devil's making him do it because he wanted The Exorcist, and Carol was saying that, he's being a holy terror.
Yep.
Which he is. And Maude is trying to just, tell Carol that it's just a phase.
Just laugh it off.
It's a phase. And I think that's when she finds the pack of pills.
Yeah, it was a pack of vitamin C.
It was vitamin C.
And she holds up the pack of pills, and we're sort of believing that it's like
birth control
pills.
Yes.
And Carol goes, no, it's vitamin C.
Vitamin C.
And Maude goes, oh, does that work? So I think at that point there's more banging, and
yes. Maude is just still keeps blowing it off,
yeah.
And Carol is like, you're making excuses for him. And that's when Walter chimes in saying that, the kid he needs a kick in the keister.
He does. He needs a kick in the pants.
And Maude is vehemently against violence and, corporal punishment.
Yep.
And these things. And what is your feelings on, were you spanked as a kid?
In a technical sense, no. But I would get the shoehorn. I would get the wooden spoon. I would get.
Well, that's corporal punishment.
It is still corporal punishment. Yeah. Yes. I remember there was one time, and this was a memory that I have very, very distinctly in my head. I was watching either cartoons or I was watching something, and it was dinner time. And Italian household, dinner's on the table. You go, you eat.
Yes.
So I was just chilling on the couch, and I don't know if I backtalked. I don't know anything, but I just remember my father storming into where I was, grabbing me by the hair.
You had hair then?
I did. I had quite a head of hair then at one point. It was thin, but it was there. Okay. And I remember him just grabbing me by the hair and pulling me to the table, and it was
maybe that's what happened to the hair.
Probably, more than likely. The follicles were just like, we don't want to go through that again, and just they decided to recede at that point.
They said, goodbye, cruel world.
But yeah, I remember. I mean, my father was never. I think I remember once he slapped my sister across the face, but his was more in his bark than it was with his bite. Even today, if my father screams for whatever reason, just my blood runs cold. Even right now, I feel like goosebumps and chills and whatnot. It was not fun, not fun. But I think that would be more how I was raised rather than it wasn't. It was never physical. It was always verbal. I was always a very verbally abused child. And even today, my father or my mother will say something out of term or say something that's really disagreeable, and you have to look at it and say, I'm 30 something. Your words have very little meaning to me right now, and if you think that they do, then maybe you're the one that needs to be in therapy and not me. But more often than not, when it comes to punishing a child, I feel like there does need to be a little bit more focus on talking to the kid rather than using brute force. This episode does deal heavily with talking about and actually physically doing a harm to a child. So if you guys are triggered by that type of specific violence, then please just continue listening for your own safety or sake, or just don't listen. Whatever helps you sleep at night. But as someone that was I was always very into psychology. I do feel like if anything is going on with the child, there does need to be, there is some type of underlying reason why the child is behaving in that specific way.
True.
I mean, if anything, last resort.
Right.
Last resort.
Yes. I think I remember my mother saying, maybe once or twice when I was maybe around 2 or something, that I was, being bratty, and she gave me a whack on the bottom, and I cried. She put me down for a nap, and then I woke up and I was back to my.
You were back to normal.
Back to normal.
Quote unquote normal.
Yeah, and and I don't really even have any memories of it. I don't really ever remember getting a spanking or anything. I was very intelligent as a child.
Yeah.
So much so they I started kindergarten, and they actually, after only about 2 or 3 weeks, they called in my parents and said, we think he's too mature for kindergarten. We want to put him in first grade. So I was always younger than everybody. I was in class with, and so.
But I mean, there, not for anything. Again, because I mentioned psychology, there is also a specific level of ADHD or potentially an undiagnosed autism.
Right.
Or this is anecdotal, and actually, if people that hear this story hear it, I might get in trouble for it, but regardless, there was a member of my family that was very unruly, very disruptive, and there was another family member that said, "Well, why don't you take him to a child psychologist and have him diagnosed?" And hell, the mother of said child was furious at the notion, and it really caused a rift in the family because of that. Oh. But the thing is, there really is something off and that needed to be diagnosed at a young age. So it was definitely one of those things that you don't want to have that conversation, especially during the 80s. But nowadays, with therapists so readily available, especially if the insurance will cover it, it's worthwhile to potentially have that done if there is something.
I think schools are more ready to advise that to parents
definitely
at this point.
Definitely. Than years ago, because years ago it was just shh.
We don't
talk about that child. That child's the problem child. It's okay. We love that child regardless. But it's you're doing yourself a great disservice by doing that.
Yeah, just leave them behind, put them in the class with all the other kids like them. Just sort of shove them to the back, push them in a corner, that kind of a thing. Yep. Which probably still does happen too.
Yes, more than likely. I would not be the least bit surprised.
Yes. So that's our
experiences with that.
Yes.
So Maude is vehemently against it, saying that's all you do is brute force, seduce women and beat children.
Right.
And Walter's like, hey, that's not a bad life.
And now there's something about running away with the circus, right?
Running away with the circus. And, Maude's like, well, you could get a job working as someone. Ringling Brothers is hiring for someone to walk around and follow the elephants. Yeah, all you have to do is walk softly and carry a big shovel.
Yes.
And there was a jolly old laugh for that.
Yes. And Phillip continues banging, and Walter says, he needs a good spanking. And then he talks about that proverb.
That very, very that Christian proverb.
Yeah.
In order to get the angel on one end, you got to beat the devil out of him on the other. And Maude says a beautiful expression that she'll file it. It's almost lyrical.
Yes.
That she's going to file it under beautiful sayings. Yes. BS.
Yes. And Carol is, saying that, that she's got to do something about his behavior.
Yeah.
And Maude just continues to say he just needs love and understanding.
Love and understanding. And at that point, Phillip comes downstairs and says, all he needs is love and understanding from the grandmother he adores. And Maude says, Phillip, I'm going to take you to see the princess and the pig. So Phillip proclaims, who the hell cares? And he storms off into the kitchen.
And Carol, she wants him to apologize. And
Walter says, where the hell does he get language from?
Where the hell does he learn that language?
And Maude says, how the hell do I know?
And Walter's saying that, he wants to discipline him.
Yep.
And Carol is insisting he's got to be punished.
Yep.
And Maude is basically she says she's going to take it upon herself. She will beat the child.
I'll beat the child. I'll beat him till he's black and blue.
Right. And so she proceeds to go into the kitchen, and then here she's supposed to be storming in.
She's being docile, and she's like, Phillip, you do know that I am going to have to punish you. So Phillip raises his hand, slaps his pants, and says, okay, why not? And then goes right over Maude's knee.
Right, as to prepare himself for
being spanked.
Yes, which actually, now that I think about it, if they've never done spanking or corporal punishment, what led Phillip to just automatically?
Oh, I'm sure that suspend your disbelief a little bit. I'm sure that because he goes to school.
I You cannot.
It's a sitcom. I can't suspend my disbelief.
There are rules.
There are rules against rules of watching
Rules
sitcoms.
that must be obeyed.
But I mean, one can assume that Phillip would learn this type
other
of
kids
attitude
get
from
spankings,
other kids getting
and,
spankings,
yeah, or
as
maybe
well.
probably seeing a kid get a spanking.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I'll accept that.
You know, it's funny that we mentioned that. Were there any other children on a sitcom prior to Maude that were beaten? Or were there any other specials that would go over child punishment?
Not that I know of. I don't think so.
Then the only place you would be able to learn it would be in school.
True. I guess. Makes sense. So, Maude, of course, she's not gonna really spank him. And she's asking, are you really angry?
And he's like, yes.
Yes.
And just the cutest face on him.
Yes.
The most durable. Yes.
Yes.
And Maude's like, you're so angry that you could scream. And he goes, oh yeah, would I? So she's like, all right, so then scream. And she claps her hands. Claps her hands, and he's screaming.
Yes,
just like that.
Yes, and we see Carol and Walter out in the.
Carol and Walter they're like, what is happening?
Yeah, like what is going on? Because it's just hearing it, you would think that she's like
murdering the child.
Yes, and she ducks her head out into the.
Well, I hope you're happy. I'm beating the child senseless.
It's breaking
my heart.
And of course she's like ducked out, and all of a sudden you hear Phillip lets out one more scream, and then it's like
and blows her cover.
Yeah, and then
blows her cover.
Maude's like, "There's some." Walter's like, "That's some heck of a reach you've got." Because obviously she was not really spanking him.
She was not spanking the child.
Yes, and what I think she was saying, he was just drinking his milk.
Yes, just drinking his milk so that he grows up big and strong to be like Mark Spence.
Yes, that was another thing that they remarked on about. Yep. Yes, Maude was like, Yeah,
because Maude comes back in and is just like, Phillip, now, please just drink your milk and grow up big and strong to be like Mark Spence. So at that point, I think Maude exits and, she's like, I left him in there. He's now drinking his milk like a good little boy. And we overhear Phillip scream, I hate milk! And throws...
You hear the glass breaking.
You hear the glass shattering.
Yes.
And Maude goes, well, there goes all of his advertising money.
And it's about at that point, Chris comes in.
Yes, Chris enters.
And he makes a mark about,
shaving and driving.
Driving
50 miles.
55
miles an hour.
Because before that gas crisis, you could drive, I don't know what the... on the highways, I don't remember what the speed limit was, but I remember it was 65, 75, maybe even 85.
I can believe that.
But
I mean, there are still parts of Connecticut that you can get away with driving at 85 miles an hour.
And so it was like all of a sudden now on the highways you're only supposed to drive 55. And people...
That explains the song "You Can't Drive 55."
Yeah. Yes. Well, that came out quite a ways after that.
Just a ways after.
That was what's his name from
Eddie Van Halen?
No, he's the one who took over for David Lee Roth in Van Halen.
Oh God, I know who you're talking about. His name escapes me.
I can't remember his name. Famous singer.
Eddie. Not Eddie. I wanted to say Eddie Vedder. It's not Eddie Vedder.
Not Eddie Vedder. Not Eddie Vedder.
Not Eddie Vedder.
We have to look this up now. So he was the singer who replaced Van Halen. Who replaced the lead singer with
David Lee Roth.
It was David Lee. It was David Lee Roth. It was Sammy Hagar.
Sammy Hagar.
We had to look it up. Yes,
we did have to look.
Can't drive 55.
There you go.
Yes, and yes, but we digress.
We digress.
But that's why he was remarking about the 55 mile per hour speed limit, and of course we're still hearing more things being broken in the kitchen and Walter's.
Well, we hear the disposal in the sink crushing up the glass.
Yes.
So now not only is Phillip destroying the glasses, he's now destroing the sink.
The sink. And Walter's like, that's the last straw.
And he takes his belt off and puts it around his neck. And Maude is like, you lay one hand on that on that grandson of mine, and it's the only thing of mine you're ever going to lay your hands on.
Right.
So at that point, Carol gets the bright idea to like ask, or no, Chris is like, well, why don't I have a conversation with him? Because Chris is a pediatrician. He understands
because they were all
children.
sort of arguing, and then Chris actually yells over all of them. Which
Yes.
Somebody yelling over Maude is kind of like, just that alone.
That's a challenge in and of itself.
Yeah. And he's saying that, Phillip, he's got an emotional, he has an emotional problem.
Yes.
Why doesn't he talk to Phillip? After all, he's a pediatrician.
He's a pediatrician.
And they were all sort
Carol's
of like,
yeah, if anybody can get through to him, you can.
That makes sense.
Carol says he adores you.
Yeah. So
Chris goes into the kitchen and he sees Phillip eating, and he immediately assumes that Chris is eating cream cheese
and jelly. Have you ever eaten cream cheese and jelly?
No, but what I have eaten is cream cheese and peanut butter.
Okay.
It's delicious.
I don't know about that.
I insist you try it at least once in your life.
I will try it.
It's delicious.
I will try it once. But yeah, I'm familiar with cream cheese and jelly. I love cream cheese and jelly.
I would probably eat cream cheese and jelly.
Phillip was not eating cream cheese and jelly. He was eating peanut butter and jelly.
But Chris just kept on saying, like, they used to call me the cream cheese and jelly kid.
Yeah.
Oh, I love cream cheese and jelly.
Yes.
Cream cheese and jelly. Cream cheese. If he said cream cheese and jelly one more time.
Yeah.
But I think it was just to get the joke across that Phillip was eating peanut butter and jelly.
And also to show that, despite the fact that Chris is a pediatrician, maybe not that great with dealing with kids.
An unruly child.
Yeah, with an unruly child, but not being a parent.
How do you... For me, I hate being called buddy. I hate being called buddy. I hate being called pal. I hate it.
Sweetie.
Sweetie is marginal. I have no problem being called sweetie. I have no problem being called... You're pushing it. You are pushing it, friend.
Little woman.
The little woman.
The little woman.
Walter, when I got up to stand, they laughed for 5 minutes. That's an entirely different episode that we went over. But just him calling Phillip buddy. I'm like, don't call him buddy.
Yeah.
Don't call him buddy. Do not call him pal. Do not call him kiddo.
Yeah.
None of that.
So Chris he's saying to Phillip, he says that, he can tell he's unhappy.
Yep.
And he's saying you can talk to me about it. And Phillip just continues to eat the sandwich.
Has a grimace on his face.
Yes. And Chris tries to point out, he's trying to create a bond, I guess, between him and Phillip, so that, sort of kind of like a psychological thing, and he says, we both have a lot in common.
Yep.
Like this, he's pointing out that they both, love Carol.
Yep.
And Phillip gets mad at that point, and he says, she's your girl. And
Chris is like stumbling and fumbling over his words, and Phillip storms into the living room and just screams back at Chris, "You're a jerk!"
You're a jerk.
And then runs upstairs.
And Chris is like, "He hates me."
And Maude says, "Thank God, I thought it was me."
Yes.
And that's when we cut to commercial.
That's when we go to commercial.
And when we come back, Carol is bereft. She's like, "Phillip, you come back down here and apologize."
Mm-hmm.
And at that point,
Arthur comes in.
Arthur just storms on into the house.
Of course.
Just storms on into the house. No knocking, no nothing, just...
Yes. And I believe he needed to borrow a flashlight.
Because the energy crisis.
Because of the energy crisis.
They turn off their lights. Because I remember this. I remember this being a thing that they did. They would turn off their power for 1 hour. Because I remember them... They also did that, I think, in the 90s. Where you would just unplug all of your power sources because it would just reduce it would reduce electricity use.
Right. Now they say even today that you should do that. Like
yes, definitely practice.
Here's the thing though, things that are have to be reset for time and all.
Yes,
I ain't unplugging those things.
No,
I ain't resetting the clock. Every time I want to use something.
Let me tell you something. Every time the power goes out, the first thing my father says is, "Well, now we got to reset the effing things." And I'm just like, "Why does it bother you? Why does it? I know it's tedious. I know it's time consuming. Then something. Just use something else. Use something else to wake you up in the morning."
I'm so bad. like when we do daylight savings time, I don't even bother to change in my car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'll just let it be an hour off.
Just let it be an hour
until
off.
it goes
Until
back.
it goes back. Well, they're trying to.
Yes, get rid of daylight savings
Marco
time.
Rubio, in his infinite wisdom, decided to introduce a bill saying, let's just have it be one time for always.
Right.
And,
yeah, well, you
whatever.
need something else to do when you're not
Something
going
else.
to those foam parties.
Oh, that's sad.
Yes.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know.
So, Arthur's like, I can't find Vivian.
Yes.
I can't
She
find
got
anyone.
lost in the dark.
She got lost in the dark.
And Maude's like, well, maybe she's just hiding.
Maybe she's hiding.
Yeah. So they decide to ask Arthur's advice about Phillip, since, he's also a doctor.
Arthur was asking some very poignent questions,
Right,
like, have you ever demonstrated in
Yes.
front of the child? Have you ever been physically demonstrative?
Yes.
And, Chris is like, no, I haven't done that. And Arthur asks
Because they told him that Phillip called Chris a jerk.
Yes.
And he's like, you don't say. And so,
you don't say. Is that so?
And
Maude turns to Carol, like, while Arthur's doing this line of questioning, saying, I think you should get a third opinion.
So Arthur is like asking, have you been demonstrative in front of the child? Have you done this? Have you done that? And they're like, no. And he's like, well.
And Arthur goes, well, do you think maybe he has a point?
Maybe he has a point. Implying that Chris is a jerk.
Has it ever occurred to you
that
maybe he has a point?
And Maude wants to know if his brain is
being controlled by a fly.
Radio controlled by a fly.
If they ever did a study on you, they'd find out that your brain is being controlled by a fly.
And Arthur's he's points out that he did a paper for
on
a medical
post-nasal drip.
Post-nasal drip.
Post-nasal drip. Oh my goodness gracious! And then Maude comes back by saying, they're going to get you one day for to be the Christian Science monitor.
Yes. So and Arthur storms out.
Indignant, he storms out.
Yes. So Arthur I guess they just felt they had to throw.
They had to throw
Conrad Bain
They threw him a bone.
They
threw him a bone.
Because it really his presence.
Well,
there
because
they
were asking him, because like even Chris said at the beginning, like, you're a doctor, you've been a doctor for a number of years, you obviously have a finger on the pulse of like what it is to be a patient. So that was one of the reasons why I think that they had encouraged him to be there. But at the same time, like, it really was a throwaway bit.
Right. Chris, he has an idea that they take Phillip with them.
Yes, and Carol's like, a college reunion is no place for a child.
Right, he's not gonna have fun at a college.
And even
reunion.
Maude was like, you don't want the child to control your life.
Right, and she talks about like that one time when she was engaged to Harry. And she was 8 years old, and
Carol was 8 years old.
Carol was 8 years old when Maude was engaged to Harry.
Yes, and Walter's like, who's Harry?
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, what was it? Because
and Maude's like, please, he was just my fiance.
Yes.
He's not the type to marry.
Right.
And Walter, under his breath, I said, 1 in a million.
1 in a million.
Maude is insisting that Carol go on the trip without Phillip. And, it makes you ask the question, as a parent, when do you say to your child, me and daddy, or me and so-and-so, like Uncle Chris or Uncle whomever, are going to go off on this trip alone without you? Like, at what point would that be appropriate?
Right.
Because there are some people that, especially in today's world where you have parents that are like both working parents, they can't, either the in-laws have to watch the child or they hire a nanny.
Yes. Very true.
So it's very interesting because I think up until this point, they never really went anywhere without Phillip.
Right. I don't think they went anywhere at all.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like,
nope.
It seemed like this was the first time.
Yes.
That's what it seemed
This
like.
definitely felt like the first time.
Yes.
So that's definitely new for Phillip too.
Yes.
That's definitely a new experience for Phillip.
Yeah. So Maude, she wants them to go on their vacation, and she says, "You'll solve the problem when you return.
Yes.
Stop worrying."
And at that point, I think Phillip comes downstairs holding a model boat.
Yes.
And Maude goes, "Here he comes, our sunshine boy." And
give a cheery. Do you have a cheery goodbye for your mother?
Well, she also asks him to apologize to Chris for calling
Oh,
him
yes,
a name.
yes.
And, he holds out
Shakes
his
his
hand,
hand
shake his hand, and
and
says, sorry I
apologize.
called you a name.
Yeah.
And Maude holds him close and says, he's an angel.
Yeah.
He's an angel.
Yes. So, Carol kisses Phillip goodbye.
And it was a very, somber goodbye.
She,
Carol's like,
tells
I love
him,
you very much.
I love
We'll see
you.
you when we get back.
Yeah.
And, Chris is like...
Oh, that was when Maude told Phillip to shake hands and apologize to Chris.
Yes. Okay, yes, you are correct.
And Chris, and then he does. Carol and Chris are going out the door, and Chris is like, I've been called worse. Phillip says under his breath, I'll bet.
Yeah. He was a bit bratty in this episode. Just a little bratty in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, they go to leave. Oh, no, they go to leave, and Phillip says under his breath, old jerk.
Yeah.
Because I think Chris calls him old buddy, or I'll see you later, old pal, or something. Just...
Okay.
Blech.
Okay, jerk. And that's when Walter's like, I'm going to go read a book.
Before he starts in on me.
Yes. So Maude and Phillip are alone.
Yeah.
So
Need help on the poop deck?
She wants to help him with his model ship.
Yeah.
Did you ever make a model when you were a kid?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
I did.
Legos. I loved Legos.
I loved Legos too.
I
had
Legos.
a giant set of Legos.
Yep.
Yes, I loved my
Bionicles
Legos.
were my favorite. I loved the figures that you were able to manipulate the way that they moved and whatnot. That was after
before my time.
That was
after my time.
I'm so sorry.
Reclaiming my time.
You're
reclaiming my time. After
hell.
my time, yes.
It's definitely after your
Yes, but
time.
I did make some models. Actually,
my brother and my sister do make. They were the ones that were really into building.
I had spaceship models. I made the Enterprise.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember in my room, I made the when they came out with the Star Trek the movie, the first one, and they remade the Enterprise and all that. I made the Enterprise, the model, and I used fishing wire, and I had it suspended off the ceiling in my room.
Yeah.
And I had it some other
very cute, very cool.
Because I love the sci-fi.
Of course you do.
I love the Star Trek. Always loved the Star Trek. So Maude is trying to help Phillip with the putting the ship together, and she's reading the instructions. And that's how those instructions were.
That is how those instructions were.
Insert glue part A to part B.
Yeah.
Making sure that part C is inserted prior to putting, and it's all this yada yada yada. So she's basically I'm just going to glue the anchor to this chain.
You do all that,
yes.
I'll glue the anchor to the chain.
Yes. And she says, she starts trying to have a conversation with Phillip. She says, your mother loves you. And he's like, well, why didn't she take me?
Yeah. If she loved me, why didn't she take me?
Why didn't she take me along? And Maude is trying to explain that,
it's a different kind of love.
Yes. Carol and Chris, they love each other. But, there's different kinds of love. There's, love for a mother for a child.
Yep.
There's love between, a man and a woman.
Yep.
And, they're gonna get married and start a family.
And Phillip,
yes,
brat that he is, says, well, if that's the case, how come you've been married four times? And Maude's like, I'm glad you asked.
She said, I thought you'd never ask.
I thought you'd never ask, thank you. I thought you'd never ask.
This was actually one of the best parts.
This was one of the good bits.
So she's detailing her different marriages,
and she said, "Well, I married Barney, and I made him happy because Barney died.
Yes,
and then I met a man named Chester and made him happy." And then I met a man named Albert, who your grandmother made happy in just 7 months. And I think Phillip then asks about Walter.
About making Grandpa happy.
Yes.
Right?
And I think Maude says, well, he really loves your grandmother, so he'll never be that happy.
He'll never be that happy.
Honestly, that would be a conversation between me and my grandmother.
Okay. That's when we cut to this diner.
This diner bar situation.
That Chris and Carol have walked into.
Off in.
And they're arguing right as soon as they, enter into the diner.
Yep.
And the waitress even says to them, are you here to eat or argue? And they
say argue. And then the waitress goes, oh, you've been here before.
You've been here before.
So I think they order coffee, and then they go to sit at the bar. And when they go to sit
Not
at
the bar.
Not the bar?
It's not called a bar.
What is it called? A breakfast nook? Not a breakfast nook. Just to serve it.
They were sitting at the, at the dining. It's just at the...
It's just a dining table?
Well, it wasn't a table. It was actually... What do you call that?
I would call it a bar.
It's not called a bar. It's called something else. The counter.
Oh,
the
okay,
counter.
The
Yes,
counter.
it's the counter. Yes, not the bar. They're
Not
sitting
the bar.
at
They're
the
sitting at a counter.
Which, because usually in a diner you have, like the counter, which is like just those tall spinning chairs.
The tall spinning chairs.
And then you would have like
booths in the back.
Booths and the tables.
Yeah.
They sat at the counter.
Or booths behind the counter.
Yes.
So when they go to sit down, they're continuing to say, like, let's go back. Chris is suggesting, let's go back. Let's bring Phillip with us. And, there's this older gentleman who,
Who is that
the
played by?
the waitress is Peg Shirley, and the truck driver is Phillip Bruns. So we have the truck driver who's saying, if you don't mind my saying so, I have 11 children, so that kind of makes me an authority on...
And one in the oven.
11 children and one in the oven.
Yes.
And, like Carol and Chris stop arguing for a minute, and Carol goes, 11 children?
Yeah. Yes.
So, they're talking, and, this guy is presenting that he is an authority on children because he has so many of them. And, he asks, how many children do you guys have?
Right.
And, Chris is like, only the one.
Well, actually, Chris points out that he doesn't have any.
Oh, that's right. He doesn't have any.
He doesn't have any because Phillip is
Carol's kid, not him.
Yes.
Not his. And, the gentleman is asking some relatively invasive questions that you would normally answer any decent human being.
Yes.
And, he asks, are you guys married? And Chris, says, no, we're not married. And the guy goes, oh!
Yeah, you got to get married first.
You got to get married first. So, the coffee comes out, and, the waitress says, here's your coffee. And they look at her and go, I think they go, is it coffee? This is the coffee?
Coffee?
And she goes, wait till you taste it.
Yeah, wait till you taste it.
So, this is obviously a place that you really want to go to eat.
Yes, no. So when the guy said that he had 11 kids, and that makes him an expert, and Chris points out, well, there's one thing you're obviously not an expert at.
Yeah.
And he says, well, he tries to save up for the vasectomy.
As soon as he saves up enough money for a vasectomy, they have a kid.
Another kid.
They have another kid.
Yes, must be Catholic.
Must be Catholic.
Oh my Lord. That makes me think of Monty Python's The Meaning of Life. Every sperm is sacred. Do you remember that?
Vaguely. I mean, growing up, I never really was a Monty Python kid.
No.
Everybody and their mother that I knew was really into Monty Python, and I was just like, it's not for me.
So some of it I like.
Life of Brian. I liked Life of Brian. The Holy Grail, I could take or leave.
I love the Holy Grail.
And Meaning of Life was a good one.
Yeah. So some and of course everybody loves some of the stuff from from television,
the Flying Circus.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. As a matter of fact, oh my God, my cousin recently announced that he's going to be a minister for weddings.
Okay.
He got his licensure. And it shocked the hell out of everybody in the family. So he posted it on Facebook, and the one gift that I found was John Cleese in a bra and panties, and underneath it said, and now for something completely different.
Yes.
And
now for something
completely different.
Yes. I liked, what was the other one? Oh, the Ministry of Silly Walks.
That was fun.
That was a funny one. The Ministry of Silly Walks. That was fun.
That was enjoyable.
That was
definitely enjoyable.
So Chris is suggesting that they go back, that they get Phillip.
Yeah.
That he'll cancel this reunion.
He'll cancel the reunion. They'll go up to a cabin in Vermont.
A lodge, I think, in New Hampshire.
A lodge in New Hampshire.
Yes.
Why did I think Vermont?
I said that. I wrote that initially too, but then I saw it was said later New Hampshire. So I don't know why I thought Vermont myself, but I don't know.
Upstate, just
But
further
New Hampshire.
upstate.
But Carol's like, Phillip is stubborn, but
Chris is stubborn too.
he's stubborn too. They kiss and they decide that's what they're gonna do. So Carol says she's gonna go call
Maude and have Maude help Phillip pack.
Get ready and all that. So then we cut back to, Maude she's already got Phillip's little suitcase.
Yeah.
She's gotten him packed up and, ready to go. But Phillip's in a fighting mood.
He is.
Yes.
He's ready. He's scrappy.
Yes.
He is a scrappy young child.
He does not want to go. And Maude's saying, there's going to be skiing and tobogganing.
I hate skiing. I hate tobogganing.
Which is like she doesn't understand because he's always loved skiing and tobogganing.
Yep. And Maude is trying to reason with saying, your mother and Chris love you. And Phillip is like, if they loved me, they would have tooken me in the first place. Tooken. He said tooken.
Did he?
He said tooken.
Okay.
Because Maude then came back saying, I think if you keep it up, they're not gonna tooken you at all, or some of that applies. She came back with a similar remark.
Right.
And she says, if you keep it up, I'm gonna glue you to your dirty socks.
Yes. And Phillip, he's insisting he's not going to go. He gets really angry, and he
takes his boat and throws it
against the wall.
Throws it against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And Maude at that point has had it.
Yes.
She says, "All right, Captain Bligh, over my knee."
Yeah.
And Phillip's like, "No, don't."
Yes.
And Maude's like, "No, before you practically begged me to."
Right.
And Phillip's like, "No, but you really mean it this time."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's saying that nobody loves me, I'm not sure when did all the speech come after the 2 spanks or before the
spanks. It was before the spanks.
It was before the spanks
because Maude finally sits Phillip on her knee and says, if Phillip is unhappy, it's Phillip's responsibility to make Phillip happy.
Yes, your happiness depends on you, which actually is quite accurate.
Yes, very true.
It's very true.
As a matter of fact, I remember listening to that the first time, and I was like, yeah, you're right.
I mean,
my happiness is my own. It's not anybody else's.
Your happiness depends on you.
It was a very poignant moment between grandmother and grandchild. That is sound, solid advice. And, Phillip again indignant says, big deal.
Yes.
And Maude says, big you think that's a big deal? I'll show you the whole deck.
Yes. And
that's puts him over her knee and spanks. Two spanks.
I think that's what all it was. I think it was just 2.
I think it was 2 spanks. And he's like, ow.
Yeah.
And,
And then Maude is upset at herself. She's like,
crying. She's crying.
What did you make me do? She's crying. And Phillip is like,
I'm sorry, Grandma.
Yeah, he's like, why are you crying? She tells him, shut up, you
little jerk.
Phillip is now, who should be the one upset, he's the one consoling Maude.
Yep. And he gives her a kiss on the cheek, saying, I'm sorry you did that.
It's okay.
Everything's going to be all right.
He's like, he says, I swear it hurt me more than you.
He did say that. That was it.
So they hug, and, and I think that's about when Chris and Carol come in. And all of a sudden he's a whole different Phillip.
He is a different Phillip.
He's like,
different Phillip.
He runs over to them. He's hugging them. He's happy to see them.
Yep.
He's happy to go now.
Yep.
And
by the time he gets to the stairs, he turns to the group and says, "Oh, by the way, Grandma just beat the hell out of me."
Yes.
And races up the stairs like a proud little boy.
Yes. And that's when Maude,
Carol and Chris look at Maude like, what happened? And Maude holds her head and says, well, it's that old expression, in order to make a child act like an angel on one end, you have to beat the devil out of him on the other.
Yes. So, and then we go to break.
We cut to
the break.
And we come back to the epilogue. And
he's come in from the living room. They've gotten
gotten
back
back
from New Hampshire.
And gives Maude a big hug. And Phillip was like, we went skiing, we went tobogganing, we had a really good time. Maude is overjoyed. She's like, wonderful, this is great.
Yeah, and Phillip points out that Chris is not such a bad guy for a jerk.
Yeah, he turns to Maude and goes, You were right, Grandma. And Maude's like, what are you talking about? And Phillip goes, he's not bad for a jerk.
Yeah.
Just an angel.
Yes.
An angel.
Yes.
A morsel. That's what he is. A morsel.
Sweet darling. So that was the episode. And as I said to you, this was the next to last episode of season 2.
Yeah, this is the second to last episode. Our next episode is the series finale.
Yes.
A season finale.
Season finale.
Season 2 finale.
Season 2 finale. And I said to you, because it felt kind of fluffy, a little bit like they were grasping at straws.
Yes.
I think they knew they had to, probably.
I mean, all things considered, an episode like that could potentially air today. It's just, I'm trying to remember when CPS was first founded or when it was created.
I don't know.
Because, years ago, someone like that would definitely land an older person or a person in general in hot water for, spanking a child. Like, I think that became... Now I'm curious.
Now we're curious.
I am very
Well,
curious.
I think corporal punishment for kids was...
The purpose of the Child Protective Services Act of 1973. So when was CPS established? In 1980, Congress passed the first comprehensive federal Child Protective Services Act.
Yeah.
So it was definitely after the episode had aired.
Yes. Yes. But, this actually brings to... Thinking about, violence and everything.
Yes.
The day that we are recording this, there was that big scandal last night at the Oscars with Will Smith striking Chris Rock.
Yeah. There's a part of me that wants to believe that it was staged.
I don't think it was.
There's a part of me that wants to believe that it wasn't staged.
I don't think it was. I haven't heard anything about it being staged.
But I mean, then it calls into question: at what point does a stand-up comedian not poke fun at other people? Like, that's the question that needs to be asked, because at first Chris Rock was making fun of Jada Pinkett Smith's alopecia.
Yeah.
And
you know what? I feel like a comedian in that sort of environment, it's one thing if you want to make fun of the movie or something about the role, but that was a bit
inappropriate. That was a bit venomous.
Because that's very, very
inappropriate.
Well, for a woman, especially, to be, losing hair.
Yeah.
Because I had this one woman, a friend, who, she was going through something like that, and it was quite devastating for her.
Yep. I believe it. I will believe it.
It's not a great thing for us men either.
No,
but especially,
it's not, but it's far more socially accepted if a man is going bald, whereas if a woman goes bald, it's like.
It's like that can be very emotionally devastating for a woman. So for him for
it to be exploited in such a way, it's a lot. So for her husband to defend her honor in a specific way, but then again, on the other hand, was it really appropriate for him to have done that live on national television?
Right.
It's almost like one slap across the face deserves another.
Yeah, I don't feel like what Chris Rock said was appropriate.
I also don't feel like what Will Smith did was appropriate.
I don't feel
either.
like what he did was
the
appropriate
the whole situation was just in very poor taste on both parts.
Yeah.
Poo-poo on both of them, but at the same time, I understood the reasoning behind what Will did.
Yeah.
If someone made fun of my significant other in a similar fashion, I'd be like, I'd either get up and leave, or I would probably take them aside and be like, "Hey, yo, that was inappropriate.
Yeah, it wasn't right." Yeah. I know.
It's a very itchy subject.
It's
a very, very itchy subject.
Yeah.
And kudos to Will for handling it as best he could. I think that would be
he didn't
handle it all that well, but that was the best he could do.
He didn't handle it all that well.
But then even already it became a memeable moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
they said there's that meme of Batman hitting Robin, and they said now it's replaced.
Now it's replaced with Will Smith and Chris Rock. Yeah, it's just I don't know how I'm supposed to feel on the subject.
I don't I don't know what to think.
There's really no right way to feel about it. Because,
no, I mean the whole situation was just not handled.
And
well.
then there are people who are posting that are just like, yeah, go Will, or yeah, Chris Rock was in the Chris Rock didn't deserve that, and then vice versa, like very 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 like hot topic of the day. And
you know, I sort of feel like, you know what, if Chris Rock were performing at like a nightclub. And you know, they were there.
Yeah.
Then you know you can sort of expect something like that.
Yes,
but
I very much agree with that.
At the Oscars, I don't feel that you expect that sort of treatment.
Yeah.
Like I say, you know, they've had comedians, and you know, it's one thing if they want to make it, you know, sort of a poke fun at, you know, the role or something like that. Like I remember, like Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
He told jokes at the Oscars, and you know, but he didn't like denigrate.
They were
people.
never. They were. Yeah. It
Like,
wasn't like Don Rickles. It wasn't like Don Rickles being like an insult comic.
I remember one of his best jokes was he was joking about Jack Nicholson.
Yes.
And he said, you know, Jack Nicholson is such a big star that John Peters still does his hair. Because John Peters got his start. He was a Barbra Streisand's boyfriend. He was a hairstylist. And parlayed that into becoming like a big Hollywood producer.
Yep.
You know, and saying that, you know, John Peters still does his hair. It was funny. It was funny, but it didn't denigrate anybody.
Nobody felt chided.
Yeah.
There was nothing like directly insulting about it.
Yeah.
It's not like the roast of Jada Pinkett Smith at the Oscars.
Right. You know, you're not going to the Oscars for, you know, that's the other thing. Had it been like, you know, a roast.
Had it been a roast, it would have been a different story.
Because you know, in that situation, you know you're going to be eviscerated.
And also, like, not for nothing, and not to, like, you know, point it out, but this was also the night that Liza Minnelli was on stage, and she was not looking all that great.
No, poor thing.
Like, part of me was just...
Life has not treated her well.
Life has not treated her kindly.
Yeah,
but
really
I mean,
hasn't.
you know, Lady Gaga was, like, next to her the whole time. Like, it was a very touching, sweet moment.
Sure.
And it was sort of overshadowed by the slap heard round the world.
Yes, true.
Like, you know, and I'm not saying that it was... I mean, I am... To a certain degree, do I think that it was staged? Yes. Because also award shows have been very poor in ratings.
Right.
So it's like, you know, next thing you know, there's going to be celebrity boxing, Chris Rock versus Will Smith.
Jeez. No, thank you.
Just,
No, thank you.
But hooray.
Hooray.
Hooray. Another episode of God Will Get You for That Walter in the books.
Yes.
If you would like to follow us, you can on Facebook and YouTube at God Will Get You for That Walter, on Instagram at Finley's Friendly Appliances. If you would like to follow me, you can at that Tomcat on all forms of social media, and that's Cat with 2 T's. Where can they follow you?
Well, of course, it's Toni
Homeperm. That's Tony with an I.
With an I.
Tony with an I, Liza with a Z, Tony with an I.
Tony with an I. You can find me on the World Wide Web at ToniHomeperm.com.
www.TonyHomeperm.com.
Yes, and of course, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.
All over the place.
I think that's everywhere.
She's all over like dog do.
Yes. I'm like savoir-faire. I'm everywhere.
I hate you.
I hate me too.
We thank you so much for listening, and you will hear us again on another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. Night, guys.
Bye-bye.